Next, on Currents News, Joe Biden is the projected winner of the 2020 election. But President Trump says not so fast. With legal battles brewing, could it all end up in the Supreme Court? Plus, just how crucial was the all-important Catholic vote? We'll break it all down. Then,
it's been over a month, but students in some Catholic schools in New York City hotspot zones are back in class. I'm Emily Druby, and that's ahead.
And some big news on the COVID front. One major drug maker says its vaccine is more than 90% effective. The news starts right now. Good evening, I'm Christine Persichetti. Days after being named the projected winner of the presidential race by the media, Joe Biden announced plans to form a 13-member task force to fight the coronavirus. This while President Trump is citing election fraud and is filing lawsuits in several states. The commander-in-chief has not conceded the race, saying he has a path to victory once the Supreme Court weighs in.
This election is over. It's time to put aside the partisanship and the rhetoric that designed to demonize one another.
The projected winner of the presidential election, acting presidential on Monday, Joe Biden addressing the U.S. about the coronavirus pandemic.
Please, I implore you, wear a mask. Do it for yourself. Do it for your neighbor. A mask is not a political statement, but it is a good way to start pulling the country together.
But President Donald Trump hasn't yet conceded the race and doesn't appear to have any plans to do so anytime soon. While he was playing golf at his club in Virginia on Sunday, his supporters were out in force in Georgia. The Trump campaign moving forward with legal challenges in several states.
At this point, we've got numerous states that are very closely and vigorously contested, from Pennsylvania to Georgia to Arizona to New Mexico to Michigan to Wisconsin. In all of those states, there are serious disputes about the vote totals.
Senator Ted Cruz, one of many Republicans speaking out in support of the president, saying it's premature to declare a winner in this race. Senator Lindsey Graham saying Trump should not concede.
And the Trump team has canvassed all early voters and absentee mail-in ballots in Pennsylvania, and they found over 100 people they think were dead, but 15 people that we verified to have been dead who voted. But here's the one that gets me. 6 people registered after they died and voted.
But officials in states like Georgia that are still counting votes have dismissed accusations of electoral fraud.
We've not had any sort of credible incidents raised to our level yet, and so we'll continue to make sure that the opportunity to make sure every legal ballot is counted is there. But at this point, we've not seen any sort of credible examples.
The Trump campaign may possibly hold rallies throughout the U.S. to push for recounts of votes. Also developing Monday, a shakeup at the Department of Defense in a move that was widely expected. Defense Secretary Mark Esper is being replaced by Christopher Miller, the director of the National Counterterrorism Center. The change is effective immediately. The U.S. Conference of Catholic Bishops is also weighing in on the election, calling for dialogue and compromise for the common good and congratulating Joe Biden as the projected winner. Archbishop Jose Gomez of Los Angeles saying, as Catholics and Americans, our priorities and mission are clear. We are here to follow Jesus Christ, to bear witness to his love in our lives, and to build his kingdom on earth. So how did Catholics end up voting in this election? The editor-in-chief at Crux, John Allen, joins us now to break it down for us. And John, this was an interesting election. You have your Republican candidate, Donald Trump, a pro-life candidate with a big evangelical backing. Then you have a practicing Catholic, Joe Biden, who is pro-choice. It appears right now that the Catholic vote was split between them, and with Biden the projected winner. Do you think many Catholic voters looked past the issue of abortion, where single-issue Catholics outvoted by multi-issue Catholics?
Well, that's one way of slicing the pie, Christine. I mean, first of all, I think we should say we don't actually know with certainty yet how Catholics voted. What we have are the results of various exit polls, and they have been all over the map, really, in terms of how Catholics split. One of the problems with this election, of course, is that exit polls don't work for people who never went to the polls in the first place. And so it's going to take some time. It's probably going to take some national sampling after the fact to know with certainty exactly how Catholics voted. But there does appear to be consensus that the Democratic candidate, Joe Biden, improved upon the performance of Hillary Clinton in 2016. Last time, Trump got the overall Catholic vote about 59-41. This time, most people believe that if it wasn't split exactly down the middle, Biden may actually have had a small edge. Now, that may end up being only movement of about 6 to 10 points.
And if you look at the Associated Press VOTEcast system, it was showing that that shift you were talking about among white Catholics, that, you know, President Trump lost some compared to 2016. You know, what could explain that shift? Do you think it's the pandemic response? Do you think, you know, when it comes to Hispanic and Black Catholic voters, maybe his immigration stance or racism? Where do you think that lies?
Well, I mean, first of all, we should say, Christine, that small shifts in the Catholic vote election to election are not surprising at all. I mean, this is the difference between Catholics and, say, Jews who vote reliably Democratic or white evangelicals who vote reliably Republican. Catholics are the ultimate swing vote. They're going into any election. There is about 40% of the American Catholic population that is almost automatically going to vote Republican, about another 40% that is almost automatically going to vote Democratic. The battle is always over that 15 to 20% in the middle who swing one way or the other depending on the dynamics of a particular election.
Right. You know, it seems like the Catholic Church is as divided as the United States. You know, what kind of challenge does that pose for church leaders?
Well, this is nothing new. I mean, you know, the Catholic Church has long been, in some ways, a house divided against itself. We saw that during the Reagan years. We saw that during the Obama years. We've seen it during the Trump years. I mean, the one thing that one has to hope, Christine, I suppose, that perhaps there will be a collective realization that this kind of war of all against all, this never-ending cycle of acrimony and snark, has not led us any place good, and particularly when we are facing a global pandemic where the infection numbers over the last several days have been the highest we have seen in the United States since the outbreak of this pandemic. That is, we face a collective, almost existential threat to our economy and our way of life. Perhaps all of that will induce Catholics, like other Americans, to think, you know, maybe we need to try something different. You know, maybe we need to try finding some form of common ground. We will see.
All right, some good insight. John Allen, editor at Crux. Thanks for being with us.
You bet, Christine.
Tomorrow, the Vatican's long-awaited report on former Cardinal Theodore McCarrick will be released. McCarrick, who is one of the most powerful Catholic leaders in the U.S., was laicized last year following an investigation into accusations of abuse of children early in his career and abuse of seminarians as a bishop. Tomorrow's report will look into the Holy See's institutional knowledge and decision-making process for the former cardinal. Cardinal Timothy Dolan commented on the report before the Vatican announcement, saying that could be another black eye for the church. Still, the head of the Archdiocese of New York said it's better that the story come out in all its awful detail to both bring some measure of peace to the victim survivors, as well as serve as a lesson on how to prevent a similar recurrence in the future. Crux editor-in-chief John Allen will be back tomorrow to talk about the report. He'll break down what the Holy See found and what this could mean for the future of the church. That's tomorrow on Currents News. It's been over a month since 6 Catholic schools in a Brooklyn red zone designated a COVID hotspot have been able to open their doors to students. But that all changes this week. Currents News' Emily Druby reports on what the schools have done to get back up and running and the challenges they're facing next.
Part of a state.
Joseph Rotundi is back in class for the first time in over a month.
I'm pretty
happy to see all my friends and learn in person again.
Happy, just like his schoolmate Victor VAZQUEZ.
I feel excited, so we can finally do the stuff we wanted to do.
Students are back in the classroom at Our Lady of Grace Catholic Academy in Gravesend, one of 6 Catholic schools in the Brooklyn Diocese closed in early October because of their location within a red zone, an area with a high amount of COVID cases. But after meeting state requirements of having all students tested, Our Lady of Grace was able to officially open back up their doors.
It's a whole different feeling now that everybody's back. The energy level is up. The kids are excited to be together. We're thrilled to be with them.
All schools in the red zone must comply with state guidelines, testing everyone before reopening, and then weekly random testing on 25% of the population. Along with Our Lady of Grace, both St. Athanasius and Good Shepherd Catholic Academies have reopened. St. Edmund Prep, a high school, is closed now but reopens on Tuesday, with Midwood and St. Edmund Elementary School both scheduled to reopen later this week. A little more good news, Brooklyn's red zone was just changed to an orange zone on Monday. Our Lady of Grace Principal Kelly Wolf says despite their proximity to what's being called a hotspot area, they've yet to have a positive case in the building. And while having the kids back is a big triumph, they know they need to be prepared.
And we'll continue to do our health surveys every morning and live by the core 4. But it is that we are in that red zone. We are a red zone school. So much of it is out of our hands.
The core 4 guidelines are stay home if you're sick, social distance, cover your face, and practice healthy hand hygiene. But even with that uncertainty, the school is trying to create a sense of normalcy for their students, especially going into the holiday season. They've already set up a food drive, a toy drive, and are preparing for a virtual Christmas concert. In Gravesend, Brooklyn, Emily Druby, Currents News.
Some churches in the Diocese of Brooklyn are also open again for Mass. 5 parishes within the Brooklyn Diocese are no longer located in red zones and opened up this Sunday. Those parishes include St. Athanasius, Holy Spirit, St. Francis de Chantal, St. Thomas Aquinas, and St. Catherine of Alexandria. Governor Andrew Cuomo also announcing today that the current red zones in Brooklyn will now become orange. This means churches in those areas can now hold a maximum of 33% capacity, or no more than 25 people. And some exciting things happening for the Diocese of Brooklyn, Archdiocese of New York, and Diocese of Rockville Center. 9 young men took a big step towards the priesthood this weekend. These seminarians were ordained transitional deacons at St. Joseph's Seminary in Dunwoody, Yonkers. This means that in as little as 6 months, they could be ordained priests. They will work in parishes and celebrate sacraments like weddings and baptisms, as well as assist in the Mass while they complete their seminarian studies. Bishop Nicholas DiMarzio presided over the ceremony and says it's one of his favorite parts about being a bishop.
That's really the heart of the mission of the bishop. We have to reproduce. We have to give men to the church that will carry on the apostolic tradition. So I think that's very, very important, and I love to do it.
Among the 9, 1 will eventually be ordained to Brooklyn, 5 to the Archdiocese of New York, and 3 to the Diocese of Rockville Center. There's a lot more news headed your way. There's good news in the race for a coronavirus vaccine. One early candidate could be more effective than anticipated. Plus, Pope Francis will meet with the families of the victims of the terror attack at Notre Dame Basilica in Nice. The news announced at a nationwide memorial service. And Tropical Storm Ada is battering Florida with torrential rains and life-threatening winds. We'll have an update. A breakthrough for scientists during this pandemic. The drug company Pfizer says its coronavirus vaccine is more than 90% effective. And something to clear Catholics' consciences, pro-life experts say the vaccine was developed without fetal cells. While it's not clear when it will be available, Pfizer's CEO says it will be free for all American citizens. Mandy Gaither has the story.
Finally, some good news in the war against the pandemic. Pfizer announcing that early data for its coronavirus vaccine shows it's more than 90% effective, much better than had been expected if the trend continues, the company's CEO says.
I think that likely, based on impact, that will be the greatest medical advance in the last 100 years.
The pharmaceutical giant said it plans to seek emergency use authorization from the U.S. Food and Drug Administration soon after volunteers in clinical trials have been monitored for 2 months after getting their second dose of vaccine as requested by the FDA. Pfizer said it anticipated reaching that marker by next week.
It is extraordinary that it's coming at a time that the world needs it the most. Right now, only in the US, we have 100,000 victims of COVID every day, 1,000 deaths every day.
The nonprofit group Public Citizen called for more data on Pfizer's vaccine, saying until it's reviewed by the FDA, enthusiasm for the apparently promising interim results announced by Pfizer and BioNTech must be tempered. I'm Mandy Gaither.
Pope Francis will deliver his condolences to the families of the victims of that church knife attack in Nice in person. The mayor of the French city announcing the families will go to Rome to meet the Holy Father during a national memorial service. The 3 victims were attacked in Nice's Notre Dame Basilica on October 29th. 1 man is currently under arrest for the incident. Catholics in France can't go to Mass, this as the nation enters a second lockdown, and the French bishop's appeal to continue public masses was denied. The bishops argued the recent restrictions violate freedom of worship. A judge said the appeal's dismissal was based solely on health grounds. France's second lockdown is expected to last until December 1st. Tropical storm Eta is wreaking havoc in Central and South America. Down in Panama, at least 17 people have died from the storm. At least 68 are missing as the country declares a state of emergency. In southern Mexico, 20 people have died because of Eta as the country experiences heavy flooding. Thousands of homes have been destroyed and hundreds of families evacuated. Guatemala, which has been dealing with Eta since last week, was set to receive some relief, but that was before the small aircraft carrying the aid crashed shortly after takeoff. According to officials, 1 person from the crash was killed and a 2nd person is in the hospital in serious condition. Eta hit the United States on Monday, battering the Florida Keys before moving on to mainland Florida. Life-threatening flash floods and high winds caused downed power lines and collapsed roofs up and down the coast. Sheldon Fox reports from Miami.
Tropical storm Eta is leaving its mark in this section of Miami.
So you're looking at part of the tree that landed here with some of the branches here.
A large tree took a tumble on this 4th Court duplex Sunday, as 2 different families in separate units were inside.
Obviously snapped, crashing on the most southern duplex.
Nobody was injured, but there was at least 1 giant scare involving a little boy.
Part of a ceiling fan to come and fall down on a 9-year-old child. The 9-year-old was fine, but unfortunately 7 people, including the family pet, will be displaced.
The families had to be evacuated and were said to be now staying with family and friends, according to Miami Fire Rescue. Those first responders were here moments after the call came in around 7:30. These pictures were taken shortly after the help arrived.
Some of them were climbing out, but what we want to do is to be able to safely evacuate them out. Sure. So as a result, we asked them to wait till we can kind of clear some of the debris out of it.
Pieces of downed trees actually had to be cut inside and around the 2 units before the families could all get out. They did, and they're well, but not able to sleep at home due to an unwanted visit from Eta.
That was Sheldon Fox reporting. Eta could hit the Gulf Coast by the end of this week. Still to come on Currents News, he was the iconic host of Jeopardy for more than 3 decades and a lifelong Catholic. We look back on the life and legacy of Alex Trebek. And he's the first athlete with Down syndrome to ever finish an Ironman competition. His inspiring story is coming up. After more than 3 decades at the helm of Jeopardy, Alex Trebek, the famed Catholic game show host, lost his battle with cancer this past weekend. Towards the end of his life, he often spoke of keeping the faith and the power of prayer, saying he learned it from the Jesuits when he was a child. Stephanie Elam looks back at his life and career.
This band's monster album included Crush with Eyeliner, REM,
Jeopardy's Alex Trebek had all the answers on the popular game show. The revamped version of Jeopardy was an instant hit when it debuted in 1984. With its distinctive answer and question format, the syndicated game show made the Canadian-born Trebek a star.
Luck plays a very important part in success in television. If you're lucky enough to wind up on a show that the people take to heart, then you're set.
Jonathan, what is the elbow? The long-running game show earned him 5 Daytime Emmy Awards and a Lifetime Achievement Award for Outstanding Game Show Host from the Television Academy. The talented host became a U.S. citizen in 1998 and was honored with a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame the following year.
I'm truly honored. I don't feel I deserve it, but there are a lot of other things in life that I've had that I didn't deserve and I've enjoyed and suffered with.
Family and fans both took notice when Trebek suffered through some health scares. There were 2 mild heart attacks, one in 2007 and another 5 years later. In 2017, surgeons removed blood clots from his brain. And then in 2019, this announcement to fans.
This week, I was diagnosed with stage 4 pancreatic cancer. Now, normally, the prognosis for this is not very encouraging, but I'm going to fight this.
Trebek often gave back to his community and was a strong supporter for charities such as World Vision, the USO, and the National Geographic Education Foundation. The affable host was grateful for his rich television career and kept it all in perspective.
When I leave, somebody younger will be doing the show, and it'll carry on. Shows have a life that is independent of their hosts. That doesn't mean that they won't miss the host, but they'll develop an allegiance to the new guy. And that's the way it should be, because it's a quality program.
And even though the show must go on, Alex Trebek will be forever remembered as the irreplaceable host of Jeopardy!
That was Stephanie Elam reporting. Alex Trebek's Jeopardy! Episodes will air through Christmas. The legendary host was 80 years old. Now to an inspiring milestone. He's the first triathlete with Down syndrome to ever complete an Ironman competition. 21-year-old Chris Nikic crossed the finish line at the Florida Panama City Beach Ironman after 16 hours and 46 minutes. This after swimming 2.4 miles, biking 112 miles, and running a 26.2-mile marathon. Amazing. The Florida native has now earned a well-deserved spot in the Guinness Book of World Records. And finally, a programming note about a very special documentary airing this week on Net TV, celebrating the life of Navy chaplain Lieutenant Vincent Capodanno, whose sacrifices on the battlefields of Vietnam have now put him on the path to sainthood.
I never met a priest like him, and I never will.
It was at that night that he decided that he considered joining the military.
He saw his place on that battlefield, period.
The men on the ground in Vietnam remembering the life and heroism of Father Capodanno in the award-winning The Field Afar. You can watch this special documentary on Tuesday, November 10th, the 245th anniversary of the United States Marine Corps, at 11 a.m. and again at 4 p.m. and on Wednesday, November 11th at 7:30 p.m. in honor of Veterans Day. And that is Currents News. I'm Christine Persichetti. Thank you for joining us because we are putting your faith in the news. Hope to see you again next time.